Hi, everyone, this is the Encyclopedia Channel. The book that this program interprets for you is The Power Law. The author of this book is a well-known British journalist named Sebastian Mallaby. He has worked in big media such as The Economist, Washington Post, and Financial Times for many years, specializing in economic and financial reports. His previous books, the biography of Alan Greenspan about the former Federal Reserve Chairman, and The Wealthy Country about the hedge fund giant, have been widely acclaimed. The professional characteristics of the reporter make him particularly good at writing the profound and boring history with flesh and blood, full of rich stories and details. In the minds of many people, venture capital has always been a mythical existence. They entered the startup company at the embryonic stage, identified valuable seeds from countless unconstrained ideas, and watered them with real money. Some of them also reaped amazing huge returns. For example, some early investors in Facebook, now renamed Meta, earned a return of more than 1,000 times in less than 10 years. Also, Sun Jingyi invested $20 million in Alibaba in 1999. Later, Alibaba listed on the New York Stock Exchange. He reaped more than $50 billion, a profit of 2,500 times. So, is it luck or skill to be a successful venture capitalist? How does venture capital change a region, a country, and even the whole world? After listening to this episode, you can understand these problems. Venture capital with huge returns like the one mentioned above is often only a very small number, and most startups will fail. Therefore, those very few successful projects must earn enough to cover the losses of a large number of failed projects, and once successful, the winner's income will explode at an exponential rate. This kind of money-making logic is called index rule in this book, and some people call it long-tail investment. It is precisely because venture capitalists are in such a field ruled by the law of index, so their way of thinking is quite special. When making decisions, most people try to control risks as much as possible, especially hoping to avoid extreme and low-probability events, while venture capitalists only care about these small probability tail events and strive to facilitate their occurrence. It may seem to many people that venture capitalists make money mainly by being rich and powerful, casting a wide net and hitting luck. However, this book wants to tell us that the best venture capitalists are consciously creating their good luck recurs. This may remind us of a sentence: the strong are those who are good at creating good luck continuously. An important purpose of interpreting this book is to take us a close look at how the most successful venture capitalists, or institutions, continue to create good luck. Its focus is not the history of venture capital from its birth to the present, but a more focused perspective. In terms of time, it began in the 1960s, starting with the first venture capital investment in Silicon Valley in the United States. Arthur Locke supported the creation of Fairchild Semiconductor Corporation, spanning 6 or 7 decades, and wrote about various venture capital funds in the 2020s. Spatially, it mainly focuses on venture capital in Silicon Valley in the United States. But for venture capital in China and India, investments have also been sorted out. Compared with other books that focus on the history of the venture capital industry, this book has a characteristic, that is, it has a relatively clear problem orientation. The author said that he hopes to achieve 2 goals through this book. One is to reveal the investment mentality of venture capitalists, as we mentioned earlier, and the other is to evaluate the social influence of venture capitalists, that is, how venture capital has changed a region, a country, or even the entire world. This issue of interpretation follows this line of thought and focuses on the 2 main issues discussed in the book. First, at the micro level, does becoming a successful venture capitalist depend more on luck or skills? Second, at the macro level, why do some regions, such as Silicon Valley, become centers of innovation and sources of prosperity far more than others? How do they do it? First part. Is it more about luck or skill to be a successful venture capitalist? As we mentioned earlier, many people believe that venture capitalists make money because of luck. This is not without reason. First of all, there is a certain degree of randomness in which entrepreneurial projects will succeed and which will fail. For example, during the same period, there may be several teams working on e-commerce platforms, social platforms, or search engines. The talent of the founding team is of course very important, but in the face of the unpredictable market, who can become popular first and seize the market also has a lot of luck in it. Because of this, many people think that the first two successes of a venture capital institution cannot reflect the skill level of the venture capitalists in the institution. They might just be in the right place at the right time, which, to put it bluntly, is down to luck. And the first two successes they achieved at the beginning will earn them a good reputation and help them attract more good projects, which may increase the success rate of their subsequent projects. A study by the U.S. National Bureau of Economic Research shows that for every one of the first 10 projects invested by a venture capital firm to be listed successfully, the probability of successful listing of its subsequent investment projects will increase by 1.6%. So, from this point of view, does it really depend more on luck to become a successful venture capitalist? The authors disagree with this view. First of all, he said that the research found that a successfully listed project will increase the probability of successful listing of subsequent projects by 1.6%. Once, it is very likely that consecutive victories will follow. Moreover, as far as the author observes, many well-known venture capitalists or institutions have had their investment experience reversed. For example, the person we mentioned at the beginning, Arthur Locke, made the first venture capital investment in Silicon Valley and created the Fairchild Semiconductor Company. We will expand on this matter later. After that, he successively invested in Intel and Apple, all of which were successful and made a lot of money. However, after Apple, he didn't have many successful projects. This is an example of inversion. In addition, there is a venture capital company called Mayfield, which was regarded as a company that gained a dominant position in this field in the 1980s, but then it disappeared. There are many similar examples. Sequoia Capital, a well-known venture capital firm, specially compiled a list to record those venture capital companies that have experienced prosperity and then failed. They also gave this list a name called the Dead. Of course, there are also some venture capital companies, or individuals, who can stay in the waiting state for a long time, or rise again after a period of trough. In the author's opinion, if you want to bet on as many successful projects as possible, the skills of venture capitalists are very important, and its importance is often underestimated. The word betting just now is actually a bit inaccurate. Because saying bet seems to be a frivolous action, and it will be settled when you put the money down. However, after reading this book, you will find that it is far from being so lightweight. Venture capitalists have done a lot of proactive work before, during, and after betting. This is where their skills are needed. Let's start with, what do venture capitalists do before betting on it? What they do is very different from other types of financial investors. Most financial investments have to analyze a lot of financial indicators and historical data before selecting investment projects. However, what venture capitalists are facing is an initial entrepreneurial team, and their projects often have not yet started to make profits, or even have only one slide. Therefore, it is difficult to do quantitative analysis, and more can only do qualitative analysis, that is, subjective judgment. Among these subjective judgments, of course, there are some views on technological development trends and project design, but these are different from person to person and will change over time. However, after observing and interviewing many well-known venture capitalists or institutions in Silicon Valley, the author found that there is one thing that most of them will value, that is, to invest in the right person. This means that they value some of the personal characteristics of the founders themselves. Note that the personal traits mentioned here do not refer to the objective conditions such as academic qualifications and entrepreneurial experience. Because in Silicon Valley, there are too many entrepreneurs from prestigious schools and beautiful resumes, it is difficult for you to rely on these to screen out the final candidates. So what will venture capitalists focus on? They will take the initiative to chat with the founder of the project face to face and observe the personality characteristics of the other party. For example, they will pay attention to whether the other party has a strong willingness to use their own abilities to do something, whether the other party will appear contradictory when answering questions, or whether there is a clear and consistent ideas, also, whether the other party will pretend to cater to investors in order to get investment, or will they always stick to their own views. In addition, venture capitalists have a special place when observing founders. That is, if a founder looks rebellious, eccentric, and maverick, in the eyes of many venture capitalists, this is not only a disadvantage, but a plus. The author emphasized this point in the book and later when he was interviewed by the publishing house. He also cited a large number of examples in this regard. For example, the famous entrepreneur and venture capitalist Peter Thiel once said that the people who started his business with him thought seriously in high school whether they could make a bomb by themselves, and they really did research. In the eyes of ordinary people, these people must be very crazy, but in Peter Thiel's view, these people are very suitable for starting a business. He later co-founded PayPal and a venture capital company with these people. In addition, Peter Thiel has also invested in Elon Musk. After Musk made money from his first venture, he took half of it to buy a racing car. You know, he was not a rich man at that time, but he just got his first pot of gold, and he didn't know what would happen in the future. Such a young guy. Later, when he was in a car accident while driving this car, and Peter Thiel was sitting in his co-pilot, Musk also smiled and told Thiel that he did not insure the car. Of course, there are some stories of this kind that you may have heard. For example, Jobs likes to walk around barefoot and wash his feet in the company bathroom, pajamas and slippers, etc. These are all real things. In the eyes of many investors, including Peter Thiel, these seemingly outrageous behaviors are a good sign for a company founder. Why? A venture capitalist quoted a famous quote from Bernard Shaw as an explanation: "The rational man adapts the world, and the irrational man adapts the world to himself. Therefore, all progress comes from the irrational man." It may be a bit absolute to say all, but venture capitalists do find that many of the best entrepreneurs are arrogant or almost crazy. This, the authors say, is by no means a coincidence. Because entrepreneurship often requires some crazy and different ideas from others. If a person is very disciplined, he will be very good at coming up with a smart plan, but what they can think of other people can often think of, which means that they may stay in a crowded competitive market forever, unable to capture wider market. When a professor was teaching students about venture capital, he asked them, if a venture capitalist finds out that the founder has a highway ticket when doing research, is this a bonus or a deduction? Many students will say that this is a minus item. But in fact, this is a plus item in the eyes of venture capitalists. Although this behavior itself is not good, what they pay attention to is an attitude of embracing risks reflected behind it. Yes, embrace the risk. These words, or similar words, appear repeatedly in this book. VCs want to see this trait in the people they invest in, and they themselves see this trait throughout the entire process before, during, and after the investment. Before investing, as we just said, they are obsessed with finding that kind of unique and rebellious, talented player. And once they meet, they won't let go easily, and will find ways to hug them. Because it is often not easy for venture capitalists to make an investment. It's not who they want to invest their money in, and the other party will happily catch it. Many company founders are wary of, or even resist, capital intervention. Every day, people can see that investors in suits and ties are chasing those maverick geniuses with banknotes. Many of these geniuses come from technical backgrounds, such as scientists, engineers, and code farmers. Many of them disdain to talk about money in their bones, or they are worried that venture capitalists will intervene too much in their projects after they take shares. At this time, venture capitalists have to relentlessly persuade them, show how they can help this project, tell them that they understand their business model, and work hard to make the other party accept themselves. This process requires patience, empathy, and excellent communication skills. What we just said is that before investing, venture capitalists should find the right person, and after finding the right person, they must get the right person. And after investing the money, they also cannot rest, but must train the right people. For example, many entrepreneurs are technical talents, but they are not very good at managing companies, so venture capitalists will help them find suitable managers. Entrepreneurs bring products to market, help them attract more investment, take them to exchange information with other entrepreneurs, build information networks, and so on. Moreover, it is not only necessary to provide these resource support, but also to provide spiritual support. The author said that a good venture capitalist should be able to turn himself into an emotional regulator for entrepreneurs. For example, when entrepreneurs are frustrated, they should be encouraged generously. When they are complacent, they should question and ask more questions, etc. Many studies have shown that the guidance of venture capitalists to startups can indeed have a positive impact on enterprises. For example, VC-backed companies are more likely to go public than non-VC-backed companies. VC-backed public companies tend to do better and produce far more innovations than their non-VC-backed peers, etc. Wait. Another interesting study found that if a startup company is located in a city where there is no direct flight, it would be very difficult for venture capitalists to go there. Later, with a direct flight, venture capitalists can visit the company more easily. Then the performance of these companies will get better. In addition, in many cases, even if a certain entrepreneurial project fails, venture capitalists will still maintain a tolerant attitude. As long as they feel that the direction is right, they will continue to provide support and help entrepreneurs out of the most difficult stage at this point, can also fully see the characteristics of venture capitalists embracing risk. Of course, while doing these, venture capitalists themselves must have a tough heart. In this way, we can safely pass through one dangerous and dark moment after another, so as not to collapse in the face of strong wind and waves. The second part. In the first part just now, the question we explained was whether to become a successful venture capitalist depends more on luck or skill. The author believes that venture capitalists do not make money by spreading a wide net and hitting luck, but through their own efforts in the process of finding the right person, taking the right person, cultivating the right person time after time. Skills that actively increase the probability of good luck. In the second part that follows, why do some regions, such as Silicon Valley, become centers of innovation and sources of prosperity far more than others? How do they do it? As you may have already figured out, this has something to do with venture capital. That's true. However, this does not seem to be a point of view that is often raised. In many people's consistent cognition, when it comes to why Silicon Valley can become the largest high-tech industrial zone in the world, some scientific, educational, and cultural factors are often at the top of the list. For example, relying on Stanford University, there are many colleges and universities nearby. Strong scientific and technological strength, etc., are very favorable conditions and rich in resources. In addition, people will emphasize that Silicon Valley has a cultural atmosphere of freedom, rebellion, encouragement of innovation, and tolerance of failure. However, the author believes that these factors are not the main ones. First of all, if you want to rely on universities and have scientific research advantages, then the Boston metropolitan area in the United States may have greater advantages, because there are Harvard University and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology there. In the field of engineering and hard science, MIT ranks ahead of Stanford University in terms of scientific research strength, and a larger cluster of research institutions is also gathered near it. However, near the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, there was no innovation center like Silicon Valley. The author said that this is mainly because Silicon Valley is better at converting those scientific research achievements and technological innovations into profitable companies. Even many innovations that did not originate near Silicon Valley can be commercialized here. And behind this, venture capital has played a big role. In addition, let's talk about cultural factors. The author also does not agree with that kind of cultural fatalism, that is, Silicon Valley has a unique culture suitable for innovation and entrepreneurship. After all, culture is a vague concept, and it is too general to explain directly in terms of culture. Moreover, if we dig deeper, we will find that this cultural atmosphere is not formed for nothing, and is also shaped by venture capital to a large extent. Therefore, the author concluded after observation and research, it is the special and risk-friendly financing method of venture capital that has shaped Silicon Valley into today's innovation capital. So, what exactly is this shaping process like? The first is to provide resources for innovation. We have mentioned a lot of this just now, including financial resources, human resources, network resources, channel resources, business guidance, and so on. With the assistance of these resources, many innovative achievements that were originally only in laboratories and factories have entered the market. When did this practice start? It can be traced back to Arthur Locke's first venture capital investment in Silicon Valley. It was this investment that sparked a wave of transforming scientific research results into entrepreneurial projects in Silicon Valley. In 1957, Arthur Locke was working in an investment bank in New York. One day, by chance, he received a letter from California. The letter came from Kleiner, the son of a client of the investment bank. Kleiner said that he is a scientist and works in a laboratory in California that develops transistors, but the founder of the laboratory has a weird personality and can't manage, which is very bad for scientists. So, Kleiner and the other 7 scientists in the company, they wanted to collectively jump ship. He wrote this letter to ask the people in this investment bank if he could introduce them to a job. After reading this letter, Locke felt that finding jobs for these 8 scientists might as well help them start their own businesses. At that time, the United States had just recovered from the devastation of World War II, and there was nothing to do. Locke has long felt that this period should be used to invest in some new things. This happened to be the right opportunity. So, he took a partner of the investment bank and flew to the place where Kleiner worked, Silicon Valley, California, on the west coast of the United States, and met the 8 scientists. Locke came up and said bluntly, "You should start your own company." The scientists were stunned when they heard it. At first, they all felt that this was not very reliable. But when Locke described how each of them could own a piece of the company and share in the company's huge profit prospects, their eyes lit up with yearning, a little eager to try. Locke later said that he was very happy when he observed this, because it shows that even people who are immersed in scientific research will have obvious responses to monetary incentives, which is a good thing. Therefore, he clarified the following persuasion ideas. On the one hand, he used the proceeds to mobilize the enthusiasm of scientists for entrepreneurship. On the other hand, he would promise to help them attract all kinds of resource support, including funds and management talents, and so on, alleviating their concerns. In this way, finally, the scientists agreed to start a business. Locke's companion produced 10 brand new $1 bills and proposed that everyone present should sign the bills individually. These 10 banknotes became the earliest venture investment agreement in Silicon Valley. Later, Locke fulfilled his promise, brought in various resources, and helped 8 scientists establish a company, which became Fairchild Semiconductor, which later became famous in Silicon Valley. For the 10 people who signed the banknote at that time, their adventure soon paid off. After just 2 years, they earned a 600 times cash return. However, in the author's opinion, the significance of this adventure is not only in terms of money, but also creates a new way of thinking that combines scientific research talents with commercial operations. As some of the 8 scientists said, before this, they never thought that they would have the option of starting a company in their own lives. But such a success has allowed more scientific research talents and investors to see that this model is feasible. Since then, in Silicon Valley, there have been more and more technological innovation companies incubated by venture capital, such as Fairchild Semiconductor. From the 1960s to the present, the focus of venture capital, from electronic computers to the internet, smartphones, to artificial intelligence, biotechnology, etc., has been constantly evolving and has always represented the latest commercialization of cutting-edge technologies. Direction. In this book, the author also made another interesting discovery, that is, although venture capitalists have always provided resources and guidance to the entrepreneurial team from the beginning to the present, the way they get along with the entrepreneurial team has changed. At the beginning, venture capitalists were the strong side. Like a majestic father, I will arrange for you what you need, and you should listen to my opinions on how you will develop in the future. Later, the entrepreneurial team became instead of the party with a greater right to speak. Venture capitalists began to become more like a tolerant mother, fully respecting the opinions of entrepreneurs, giving them more autonomy in their growth, and providing help according to their needs. If we want to find a time point for this transformation, the author believes that it is about the meeting between Zuckerberg and Sequoia Capital. As we mentioned earlier, Zuckerberg went to the meeting in pajamas and slippers. He didn't oversleep, because the people present said that it could be seen that he took a bath and changed into pajamas again. In addition, although he prepared a PPT for the meeting, it turned out to be 10 reasons why you shouldn't invest in me. To put it bluntly, he really didn't want Sequoia's money. This also reflects the change in the status between the entrepreneurial team and capital, from entrepreneurs eager for capital to capital-begging entrepreneurs. Behind this transformation, there are deeper reasons. In the early days, venture capital invested mainly in hardware industries such as semiconductors and chips in Silicon Valley. Their development required a lot of funds, so investors naturally had a greater say. Later, in the internet age, entrepreneurship mainly relies on programming technologies, and most companies are asset-light. Therefore, entrepreneurs who master technology have become the party with the most say. In the above content, what we are talking about is that venture capital, by providing resources for innovation, makes each scientific research innovation a profitable project. But this is not enough to explain why Silicon Valley has become the earliest and most famous innovation gathering place in the world. This brings us to the second role of venture capital, which is to connect innovation into a network. Sociologists have found that in some of Silicon Valley's competing regions, such as the US East Coast and Japan, the tech industry is dominated by a few large companies. However, Silicon Valley is different, where an industrial cluster composed of startup companies has formed. In an industrial cluster, there is a relatively loose, weak relationship among enterprises, while there is a close, strong relationship between a large enterprise and its subordinate enterprises. Sociologists have found that a region with a large number of weak ties can breed more innovations than a region with only a few strong ties. Because here, the circulation of information will be more sufficient, and the collision of ideas will be more frequent. In one bar after another, in encounters and chats, creativity will spread like wildfire. A key role of venture capitalists is to facilitate the creation of more weak ties. Because a venture capitalist often invests in more than one entrepreneurial team, and he will introduce these teams to know each other. In addition, many venture capitalists also know each other, so that their respective project networks are further connected. In this way, the number of weak ties will grow exponentially, leading to more innovations. However, we also know that only a few of these innovations will succeed and most will fail. So if entrepreneurs are afraid to try because they are afraid of failure, it will obviously greatly weaken the innovation potential of a region. This brings us to the third role of venture capital, which is to help reduce concerns about innovation. Some venture capitalists promise entrepreneurs that even if they fail, they can help them find their next job before starting a business. In addition, we also mentioned in the previous part that in many cases, after the failure of entrepreneurial projects, venture capitalists will still maintain a tolerant attitude. As long as they feel that the direction is right, or they are interested in this technology, they will continue to continuously inject spiritual support, technical support, and financial support, help entrepreneurs get out of the darkest moment. This book introduces many entrepreneurs, including Jobs, who experienced many failures before finally succeeding. Later, in an event, the author of this book added that in his academic research, he had also studied the tolerance of venture capital for failure. It turns out that many venture capitalists or institutions are willing to give entrepreneurial teams a second or even a third chance, allowing them to keep exploring in trial and error, and such venture capitalists with a high tolerance for failure are also more likely to breed successful innovation projects. Let's go back to what we mentioned at the beginning of this part. Many people will say that Silicon Valley has a cultural atmosphere of freedom, rebellion, encouragement of innovation, and tolerance of failure. After hearing this, you may also have a similar opinion to the author, that is, in fact, this cultural atmosphere is also shaped by venture capital to a large extent. At this point in the explanation, we have already said how venture capital has shaped Silicon Valley into an innovation capital. We see that venture capital is here to provide resources for innovation, connect innovation into a network, and help innovation reduce concerns. In the words of the book, VCs shape innovation, not just passively appear where there is innovation. This logic exists not only in Silicon Valley, but also in the United States. After entering the 1990s, venture capitalists began to go out of the United States to search for opportunities around the world. For example, the book also spends some space talking about China. The author found that Chinese internet companies were largely influenced by venture capital in their initial stage. Companies such as Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, Sohu, Trip, and NetEase, in their early days, mostly raised financing from American or American-style venture capitalists. Most of their ownership structures belong to overseas models. Companies give employees stock options. The practice of incentives is actually a suggestion from venture capitalists. Of course, after entering the 21st century, China's own venture capital industry is also developing rapidly. The data shows that from 2009 to 2018, 3 of the top 10 cities for venture capital investment came from China, namely Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. In addition, promising venture capital clusters have emerged in other countries and regions such as Israel, India, and Southeast Asia. Many studies have shown that venture capital can promote innovation. The more venture capital funds enter a country, the higher the country's level of innovation will be. In countries or regions with the most vigorous technological innovation in recent years, we can almost see the impetus of venture capital. Now, let's review the key points mentioned above. In the first part, we focused on the question, is it more luck or skill to be a successful venture capitalist? The author believes that venture capitalists do not make money by casting a wide net and hitting luck, but by consciously creating good luck. In the process of finding the right person, taking the right person, cultivating the right person time after time, they actively increase the probability of good luck through their own skills. In this process, we can also observe an important characteristic of venture capitalists, that is, they are good at embracing risks. What they believe in is that they would rather fail after trying than give up opportunities easily. In the second part, we discussed another question with a larger perspective, that is, why some regions, such as Silicon Valley, can become centers of innovation. The author believes that behind this, venture capital has played a big role. They provide resources for innovation, connect innovation into a network, and help innovation reduce concerns. In the words of the book, VCs shape innovation, not just passively appear where there is innovation. In modern finance, venture capital is an important financial tool for technological innovation. Venture capitalists combine the advantages of the enterprise with the advantages of the market, allowing more technological innovations to enter the market and promoting the formation of high-tech industrial clusters. In turn, the development of high-tech industrial clusters has attracted more venture capital. Every day, we can see that bold innovators, inspired by bolder venture capitalists, have opened up efficient paths to meet human desires and let one piece of soil full of wisdom grow into new innovative lands. This is the end of this episode of the show. What do you think about it differently? Welcome to leave a message to discuss with everyone. Hey, if you like our channel, please subscribe us. Haha, remember to like it.